At this time, I'd like to reconvene the regular board meeting. Am I on? Did you hear me? We will now have the swearing-in ceremony for our new student board representative, Ethan Collier. Ethan, you want to stand up for me, please? Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Ethan Collier, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations, Ethan. Okay, Dan, can you call the roll now?
Hall.
Present.
Solis.
Present.
Segura.
Here.
Pike.
Here.
Tarantino.
Here.
Janney.
Here.
Collier.
Here.
Okay. We will now have a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance, and if Dr. Glover could lead us, I would really appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Glover. The board met in closed session preceding this meeting to discuss the following issues. Number 1, student expulsion, suspension, expulsion, reinstatements, Education Code Section 48916 to 48918, students identified by ID number. Number 2, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reclassification, reassignment, resignation, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. Number 3, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. Number 4, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. Number 5, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. Number 6, student challenge to final grade in course hearing, Education Code Section 35146. The board took the following action. Moved by Segura, seconded by Solis, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the reinstatement of one student with the vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Hall, seconded by Solis, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the reinstatement of one student with the vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Hall, seconded by Solis, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the reinstatement of one student with the vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the request for all leave of absence for 2 certificated employees with the vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Okay, at this time I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for July 22nd, 2019 regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Collier.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Solis.
Yes.
Segura.
Yes.
Pike.
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. We will now have an update from our superintendent, Dr. Janning.
Thank you, President Pike. Well, welcome everyone to our first board meeting of the 2019-20 school year. And we just really want you to know that whether you agree or disagree with our vision, our direction, our actions, our decisions, we continue to welcome and invite your perspective. I also want to welcome Hilltop Junior Ethan Collier as our new student board representative. This is his first board meeting. Student voice is important to the governing board as well as the entire Sweetwater staff. And so thank you for representing student voices. And even though school has not been officially in session until today, student and staff accomplishments still occur. And so I'm going to share with you a couple of examples. First of all, the teachers in the audience and outside of the audience will be happy to know that our attendance procedures were certified by CDE in late June. That good news means that teachers will no longer have to sign off attendance verification every period, every day. Woohoo! Yeah, can I hear a hallelujah? No. This procedure will now be done digitally, right? So we want to thank the IT department and the finance team that worked together to make this happen. Much appreciation goes out to our teachers for hanging in there while the certification process was completed. And we thank you, and we thank you again for signing all of the attendance verification forms for the last 1.5 years that has contributed to us completing the certification. So thank you. In summer school, we had 4,318 students enrolled with 5,476 credits earned. So congratulations to the students and kudos to the teachers and staff who supported each student's success for summer. And then right after school ended, San Ysidro High School participated in the Southern California Special Olympics. This is the program at Long Beach University Jack Rose Stadium. And one of our students' athletes' picture made the cover, program cover. This happens to be Sebastian from San Ysidro High School, and he actually took first place in the 100-meter run. So congratulations to Sebastian and to the other San Ysidro High School students and to San Ysidro High School PE teacher and coach Pat Oliverio, who took them up there. And we also want to thank Trustee Segura, who has supported San Ysidro's efforts in the Special Olympics events. I know you've attended some at their school. I'm not sure if you went up to the LA one, but I know you've been there supporting them, so thank you. And some of us know some of this information about Keone Cavaco from the Eastlake High School baseball player. We knew that he was picked number 13 draft pick, but I'm not sure that we also knew that he was selected as the California's Baseball Player of the Year. So that's pretty awesome. And then Sioux High teacher and TOSA, computer science TOSA, Art Lopez, was elected to the board of directors for the Computer Science Teachers Association, and that's a 2-year term. That may not sound like a big deal. It is a huge deal because this board is comprised of representatives from all over, not just the country, but the world. And he's only one of 2 secondary representatives in the world. And so we are grateful to Art for his continued work in the area of computer science and his representation in such a critical area. And then at Wednesday's Welcome Back at Otay Ranch, I reminded everyone that our instructional focus remains the same: effective first instruction that leads to student engagement and mastery through the lens of equity. Truly, that is a powerful statement that we take very seriously. And just as a reminder to everyone, because not everybody made it to that day, our instructional focus has 6 essential elements. And these were developed by our teachers, all of our SLTs across the district. There's not one school that had more of a say, but it was kind of a combination of what every school's ideas were. So those 6 areas, those essential elements of this effective first instruction include teacher behavior and beliefs, social emotional learning and classroom culture, student learner outcomes, engagement through high leverage instructional strategies, assessment for learning, not assessment of learning, but assessment for learning, there's a difference, and then teacher reflection. And so all those student learner outcomes are what we do, or what our teachers do in the classroom every single day across the district. This year we are emphasizing SEL, or social emotional learning, with a focus professional development. The keynote speaker at the Welcome Back was Liz Murray, and she's the person behind the movie Homeless to Harvard. Maybe you've seen it. If not, I would recommend you see it. It doesn't really give it the true picture of who she is as a person, in person, because she was pretty amazing. But she started that introduction to SEL with our staff. And we all know teachers in this room, counselors in this room, other staff in this room know when we connect our students to any course they take with SEL strategies, we not only move from engaging the heart of the student, but also engaging the mind. And we get to that student's heart when they feel valued and safe. And so we are one of the few, if only, secondary districts emphasizing SEL, and we just know that this will make the difference for student learning in our district. We also want all our board members to know, we want everyone to know that our Board of Trustees believes paying attention to SEL and classroom culture is not only a priority for us this year, but it's also in combination with our continuing work with restorative practices. So that means that in year 5 of this board's and my service to our district community, our priorities remain the same: teaching and learning, which is LCAP goal number 1, and equity and culture, which is LCAP goal number 2. We also want to remind everyone that our board's position remains solid in our support to students and families as it relates to our resolution that was adopted by the board in 2016, December of 2016, resolution number 4468, that talks about advocating for and protecting the rights of each of our district students. Combined with California being a sanctuary state, our resolution clearly states that we will continue the DACA program, we will support the rights of all students to attend school without fear of detention, and we safeguard the protections afforded to students classifying schools as sensitive locations. One last thing, I also mentioned at the welcome back that our labor partners, that includes Confidential, CSEA, NAGE, SCGA, and SEA, have participated with the Board of Trustees and management for the past 4 years in the California Labor Management Initiative, also known as LMI. So an LMI's mission seeks to engage school system unions and management as collaborative partners in not only creating, but in resourcing and implementing solutions that truly result in a strong public education system that serves every student in California. This initiative began with State Superintendent Tom Torlickson and is strongly supported by our new State Superintendent, Tony Thurman. We're just grateful to our labor partners for their collaboration to help us build this capacity as a district. I also announced at the welcome back that I would be conducting a school site-by-site listening and communication tour over the next 10 to 15 weeks. That means I will spend an entire day on each school campus listening and answering questions on any topic that the staff wants. I'm also looking forward to this opportunity and hope to see staff when I visit each of the sites. And finally, in reflecting over the past 10 months, not finally for my message, but finally for this part of my message, I've learned that when we choose to face challenges with focus and determination, we build confidence, and we learn how to be proactive in the face of adversity. We won't always know what challenges may come our way or when they may appear, but we do know this: we can accomplish anything with confidence and purpose. So, just on the side, I want to share with you that over the break in early July, my immediate family, along with 46 of our other relatives, made a trek from the U.S. mainland to the island of Guam for a family reunion. I know you're saying, like, Guam? Like, looking like me? But it is true. The trip also celebrated the 75th anniversary of the Guam liberation. And there's a reason for me sharing this. It is a 14-hour flight and to Guam from California. And Guam is 17 hours ahead of Pacific Standard Time. In fact, Guam is so near to the international date line, and since Guam is a U.S. territory, it's very, very well known on Guam that it says that Guam is where America's day begins, right? Because they represent the United States and they're near the international date line. So once we arrived, we were met by another 50 of our family members. There were actually 5 generations of family who reunited during this trip. And just for your information, a little bit about Guam, if you don't know, the population of Guam is a little more than half the size of the city of Chula Vista. So it's approximately 164,000 people on the entire island. My mother was 14 years old when World War II broke out on Guam. Then and even now, it's a very strategic military location, both for shipping and for air travel in the Pacific. In fact, Guam is a home port for 4 nuclear-powered fast attack submarines, as well as 2 submarine tenders. So celebrating the date when Guam was liberated from an occupation that happened 75 years ago allowed us to hear our elders share stories of what it was like to survive severe war conditions. And what I appreciated most about visiting my mother's birthplace, now for the second time, was the opportunity to truly live in the culture, to see where her family was born and raised, and learn how family is family, no matter the miles of separation. That's why mostly I wanted to share that with you, that, family is first, right? So family matters most. Finally, I want to close tonight with a story of perseverance right here in our own backyard. I don't know if you know Coach Chris Krajewski. He was an assistant coach for football and volleyball at Castle Park High School, but never served as a head coach. So he decided he wanted to do that, and so he gave lacrosse was the only sport that didn't have a head coach, and so he thought he'd give that a try. In his first year as girls lacrosse coach at Castle Park High School, his team went 0-17. 0-17. So most of the players had never played lacrosse ever, and he didn't know much about lacrosse either, but he just wanted to give it a try. So in that 2016 season, the team scored only 7 goals the entire season, and yet they gave up 207 goals. You can probably imagine it might be difficult to motivate those players to keep practicing and keep playing on the team. But there was a UT article that came out on July 17th by Steve Brand that stated that even with that record, 17 players, here it is. Mr. Tarantino brought it. Even with that record, 17 players returned in 2017. And in the 2017 season, they did a little better, and they ended up with a 2-15 win-loss record. In the article, Coach K said, "From the very beginning, I impressed upon the players to ask themselves if they left everything they had on the field. And if they let down, even for a minute, that's when the other team will take advantage." So in the 2017 season, they got their first win, breaking a 43-game losing streak. They were making progress, right? They only won 2 games, but they were making progress. In 2018, almost the entire team returned, and they ended with a 6-14 record. And student athlete by the name of Celeste Preciado fell in love with the sport, never played it before. She said Coach K made it fun. In 2019, so now we're talking in the 4th season, when Celeste started, she was in 9th grade. Now we're going into her senior year, and the Lady Trojans won the Metro League banner, finishing with a 10-8 record and outscored their opponents 165 goals and allowed 155 goals. And here is the key to their winning season. In quotes, according to the student, "We never gave up hope," said Preciado, adding that since she knows what it's like to start a program and stay with it until it's turned around, she's thinking now about starting a women's lacrosse team at Southwestern College. Now that's perseverance. So we want to wish everyone a great start to the 2019 school year, and we thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Pike.
Thank you, Dr. Janney. We'll now have a report from our Student Board Representative, Ethan Collier.
Well, I would just like to say welcome back to this amazing school year, and I'm very excited to be working with the Board of Trustees and being the representation for Sweetwater student body. Some things that I would like to really advocate for this year is the implementation of restorative justice within school sites, the teen court program, and as well as our cultural arts program with our baile folklorico program and mariachi program. So I'm very excited to be working in those positions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is the point of the agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes each to do so. The Board of Trustees cannot legally take action on or respond to matters not posted on the public agenda, but will refer the matter to the Superintendent's office for review and report. Thank you for your cooperation.
Emmy Wong. Emmy Wong. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were up there.
He's trying to get up there.
Good afternoon, board members and Dr. Jenny. I have one thing, concern I had. So East Lake Middle has submitted a request for an additional awning or canopy covering for the lunch area approximately 2 years ago. Currently, there are only enough covered area to accommodate less than a third of 800 to 900 students during lunchtime. And keep in mind that this is with 7th and 8th grade graders taking lunches at different times. East Lake Middle, located at the furthest eastern area of Chula Vista, the temperature could be as high as like 5 degrees or more than it is on the west side. And so at the end of last year, school year, I inquired with Dr. Aguirre regarding the status of the request, and I was told that the request was submitted to the state of California for approval, and that he would keep the principal apprised of the status. Well, today I was at East Lake Middle, and I was notified when I was there that they were told that there was no funding for the covering, that we were no longer going to be given a covering. And I was talking to them, and they were even telling me that now they are looking at Amazon for $200 cover. I mean, the teachers are getting desperate. They really don't want the kids in the sun. It does get really hot. I was out there today volunteering. I was in sweat. I can't imagine kids sitting there. And with us, all of hundreds of East Lake Middle School parents, families paying, into Melrose every year, I'm just wondering, where's the money? Why is it that we have no money? My understanding was that Melrose was created so that we could come. This was what it was supposed to be for, was the maintenance of the school facility and updates of the facility. So I don't understand why there is no money for something like this. So I just really would like to know what's going on, because it is really, I understand it's, to some people it might be a luxury. It really isn't when you talk about kids who are in the heat, in the concrete, and they're, it's during lunch. Some of the kids had just done PE. It is a big deal, especially for somebody, that we pay a lot of Melrose. I want my kids to be comfortable. It is really hot. So if the district really puts kids first, please act on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cassandra Ugarte.
Good afternoon, board members and Dr. Jenny. I'm Cassandra Ugarte. I'm a senior at Bonita Vista High School, and I'm graduating this year. And for years, I've known that I've always had an electrical device or a laptop on hand to use during class. And just hearing this recently, I already know that this is going to affect my education, the education of my peers, even though the district claims the budget will not affect our students' education. And going further, I can see that the laptops have helped many of my peers with hardships, as not everyone has laptops at home. In fact, myself, I have a family of 6, and just sharing it with my brother who's in college now, and my younger brother who's a freshman this year, and my mom who's a teacher, not having my own laptop will be difficult, as I have many other activities that include using a laptop. And going further, many of my fellow peers are going to be going to college this year, and having a laptop for applying to colleges and finding scholarships is a great resource for them. In fact, even like with classes itself, when we struggle to understand concepts, we use Khan Academy and other programs to help us understand it when our classes or our teachers can't do the best that they can, and a laptop, having it on hand, is a great idea for having it. And going further, in fact, I'm an AP and IB student as well, and having a laptop at school has helped me get ahead and doing my assignments rather than doing it at home where I can be stressed at times. And in the end, also, having a laptop has really helped my teachers having better connections with our students. with getting more prepared for our AP and IB test, and not having a laptop can easily have an effect. In fact, today when I went to my AP government class, my teacher, Mr. Lambert, immediately said that our class is mostly computer oriented, and since we don't have laptops this year, it's going to be a struggle for him to arrange his curriculum, and that makes me concerned for how in the future I'm going to be able to provide and do the best I can for my AP test this year. And then going further, there's many academic programs at my school, such as speech and debate, newspaper, and academically, which all usually require a laptop. In fact, myself, I am part of speech and debate, and I'm an officer on that team. And being an officer really means I have to get involved with my fellow team members. That involves making presentations, making comments on their speeches, and involving them and helping them have better skills with speaking. In fact, even myself, you can ask my mom or my family or my fellow team members. We all, I myself use the laptop for hours on end researching and finding new information. And this in the end allowed me to actually go to state, seeing as I went to a state tournament, and this allowed me to win 6 rounds, which is having a tournament, just having a laptop on hand at my tournament. And this has been a really big success and moment for me in my high school years. And having that laptop has helped me gone really far, and I want that to actually happen for my other seniors as well, with going far and having a laptop on hand when using it for AP, IB classes, or extracurriculars, and allowing them to go to state. So please find a way if possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen, cheers.
Several comments tonight. Over the break, I was forwarded a farewell speech of someone who held an important position. The word "I" was used over and over and over again, as if all accomplishments were his. After reading it, I found myself reflecting on the meetings, in particular of our superintendent, the bi-monthly ones. I have but once heard her say "I." Instead, she speaks of the accomplishments of the many, the they that make up Sweetwater. The one time I heard her speak "I" was when she took responsibility for the budget deficit. I ask all of you, what is missing? What is missing is the board's responsibility, particularly those trustees who sit on the audit subcommittee. So respectfully, I am curious, where are your responsibilities as our elected officials? The buck does not stop solely with Dr. Janney, it stops with you 5 as well. We are often told to refer to the district website. The district website is a hot mess. Have you tried maneuvering it? Employees showing up under departments that they have departed from. New directors' names nowhere to be found. I have heard it said those in the district office are thinkers. What we need are doers. Each and every month a new problem arises, a new issue, and there it is in the press. Where is the cabinet? Where are the problem solvers? Those of you who are the highest paid. Case in point, today is the first day back to school. Eastlake, the largest freshman class in history, over 900. 150 alleged transfers. I thought transfers were closed. Special ed classes for the most severe, overflowing. Schools stated we were just given the authority to interview for open positions last week. Explain to me how this happens. We have known the retirement numbers for months, yet here we are with knee-jerk reactions. No laptops for seniors, while hundreds of other grade students never use theirs. No one has given thought to surveying just how many teachers use them. That would be the common sense approach. Proactive equates to success. Reactive defines failure. Suits, thinking, talking, failing to implement. Allow me to say, while many of you are pleasant and nice individuals, there's no way in hell you would succeed in corporate America. In corporate America, if you're unable to problem solve or to project the consequences of new policies, you're gone. It is time for a reboot. All collecting a big paycheck, ask yourselves, what could I be doing different, better, that would equate to an improved quality education for the deserving students? Regarding the furlough days, while I am cognizant of the fiscal impact of not agreeing to them, I have to respectfully ask, why should any employee take a pay cut? You name me something these employees were responsible for that caused the deficit, and I might consider it. But you can't, because they didn't. It appears the SPED changes that were not supposed to happen this year are happening this year. Allegations of lack of aids abound. sped kids and general ed courses. My phone is ringing off the hook, and I'm a nobody.
Emma Romero. Emma Romero.
From a meeting that it was from June 17. That's what she said. Junta del junio 17.
El junio 17 tuvimos una junta con la doctora Yane y representantes del distrito. Nos dijo que nos iba a mandar una carta, no nos mandó nada.
Okay, on June 17, she had a meeting with Dr. Jenny and some members from the board, and Miss Jenny, Dr. Jenny, told Mom that she was gonna send them a letter or email, but they didn't receive anything.
Y se los mandé por email a la doctora Yane y a todos ustedes, los de la mesa directiva,
She
y a
emailed
la señora
everybody.
Imelda. Y nadie me ha contestado.
She emailed Dr. Jenny and all the board members and Miss Genevieve, and no one has answered her.
Así que no hagan como que me escuchan o escriben, porque ustedes bien saben todo lo que van a batallar los estudiantes de San Isidro High School.
So don't pretend that you're taking notes and just look at me like you don't know anything, because you know all the struggle that San Isidro High School students will go through.
Todos lo saben, todos lo ven, pero nadie se atreve a decir la verdad.
All of you have seen it, all of you know, but no one has to dare to say the truth.
Distrito de Sweetwater, sus salarios son legales, pero no son justos.
Your salaries are legal, but not just, not fair.
Según las noticias ABC 10, el distrito de Sweetwater
According to Channel 10 ABC News, Sweetwater District
gastó en salarios y beneficios casi $400 millones.
spent almost $400 million.
Es decir, casi el 85% del presupuesto del ciclo escolar 2017-2018.
Almost 85% of the school year.
17, 18.
17, 18.
Y las pensiones en esos años subieron, el pago por sus pensiones subieron el 118%, ¿verdad? Por eso no hay dinero.
And the retirement benefits was raised 18%.
118%.
118%. That's why we don't have money.
Conforme a la proyección del presupuesto de Sweetwater District,
According to
Projection.
budgets of Sweetwater District or the projection,
para el presente ciclo escolar se destinará más de $52 millones
for this current school year, it will be 52 million
para cumplir con las necesidades de estudiantes de bajos ingresos, jóvenes foster y aprendices de inglés.
To fulfill the needs of students, low-income students, young foster kids, and English learners students.
Pero son estos los estudiantes más afectados con la eliminación de los autobuses escolares.
But these students are the one more affected with the elimination of the school buses.
Las personas no son malas, hacen cosas malas.
Persons are not bad people, they make bad things.
No todas las leyes son justas y no todo lo justo es ley.
Not all the law is just and fair, and not everything is fair is a law.
Por favor, hagan lo justo y regresen los autobuses escolares a los estudiantes de San Isidro High School.
Please do the
Gracias.
just thing and return the school buses to the students, San Isidro High.
Nick Marinovich.
Good evening, President Pike, members of the board, Superintendent Janney. I did not file a chair report because we did not have a meeting last week because staff was gone and so on. But I just thought I'd give you some of my quick comments that I was going to make here during non-agenda public comment. First of all, we had a briefing today over the phone with our new bond oversight member, Claudia Abarca, I guess is how you say her last name. And it was a good briefing, and she has an excellent background in contract compliance with the City of San Diego, worked her way up the food chain as a deputy director, I believe, in the Public Utilities, Water Utilities Department. So she's going to be a welcome addition, I believe, to the Oversight Committee. There is a meeting this coming Thursday at the district office, and we'll be talking about what we usually do is just get a status of the projects. The PLA is still on our radar, and we're going to be looking at what specific tasks we want to look at this year. We recognize as a committee it's going to be a slower year because likely there's not going to be no new debt, and the projects are sort of on proceeding pretty forthrightly. So we're meeting every other month. We also have a vacancy through the resignation of Dominique Navarro. So we'll have one additional position at least that will need to be filled as a community member at large. Finally, this is the last year for, we'll be electing a chair too this coming meeting. This is the last year for several of us long-timers on the committee, myself being one. You can get a little clock on your computer saying how many more days, and two of us will be gone from the committee, myself and Terry McKerney. So this is a transition year for the committee. And one of the things, whether I be chair or whether I'm just a member, I want to make sure that, good governance is when you have things institutionalized, and I'm sort of preaching institutionalized, doing things the right way. So when you're all gone, the new people sort of in the same system, and so it just continues on. That's really should be the goal, I think, as board members, frankly, to create that institutional positive developments. And so I'm hoping to have some kind of training manual, some kind of training function so it's turned over and that new members know what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it and what are the issues that should be important to the committee. There's been a lot of progress over these 7 years, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Andrea Oropesa.
Hi, good afternoon. I know how to speak English, but I'm gonna try to tell everything Spanish because I'm representing one of the parents from San Isidro High School.
Okay.
So, buenas tardes, yo estoy aquí. Good afternoon, I'm here. Nada más para poder expresar la frustración que se siente como padre.
I'm here to express the frustration that we feel as parents.
Mi hija comenzó el día de hoy, su primer día.
My daughter began school today.
En 9º grado.
As a 9th grader.
Ella viene de Montgomery Middle School.
She comes from Montgomery Middle School.
No conoce a nadie en esa escuela.
She don't know nobody in that school.
Y le quitaron el transporte escolar que la iba a recoger justamente en la esquina de mi casa.
And they took away the bus route opportunity that was going to pick her up right by the corner of my house.
Yo soy maestra de preescolar.
I'm a preschool teacher.
Trabajo para el Estado.
I work for the state.
Y sé que cada alumno
and I know that each student
cuenta para los fondos que
count for the
recibimos.
funds and the budget that we have.
Yo, al ver la frustración de tantos padres el día de hoy al llevarla a su escuela,
as I see the frustration in so many parents as they take their kids to school,
propuse no enviar a nuestros hijos esta semana.
I proposed that we did not send our kids to school this week.
Porque sé que eso es un fondo menos que reciben las escuelas.
Because that I know will make a difference in the fund that their school receive.
Yo lo vivo día a día en mi trabajo.
I live this day by day at work.
Cada niño cuenta en el salón de clases.
Every kid counts in my school.
Inclusive los lunches cuentan.
Including the lunches.
Y yo soy una madre que ahora va a tener que pagar $200 mensuales para tener quien recoja a mi hija.
And I'm one of the parents that are going to have to pay $200 so I can have somebody to pick up my daughter.
A month. So that's why we're here. It's my first time. I don't know what to do. I don't know nothing about this, but I know the frustration they feel. They're doing that since like 3-4 months ago. I'm new because I came from another school district, and it was different. I drop and pick up my daughter every single day. But over here, I saw everybody today in the morning, and I was like, oh my God, what's going here? For me, it's not hard to pay $200 because I work. But today I meet some of the parents, they don't have transportation. They don't have the money to pay for someone to drop and pick their sons or daughters. So I can feel what they feel. And I don't know if you're going to listen to us or what can we do about it, because it's a big problem. I had my daughter before on that school, my older daughter. Right now she's in college. And I noticed there's not enough transportation, the public one, for 100,000 people there. So the traffic today, I drop her at 7:30, and the school starts at 8:30. 1 hour before, and the traffic was so hard to go in the school. So what can we do? The distance, it's hard because you have to go up the hill with your backpack, with the sun. What's going to happen when it rains? Who's going to help those children that are going to school? They're trying to be someone in this world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yesenia Espinosa. Yesenia Espinosa.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is my second time trying my best of my English. As you see, all these cameras here are present because of us. Most of these cameras are present because of us. Why? The first time that we came, it was just a little group of mothers. Today, our group has grown. And this group of mothers is a group of mothers that are worried for their kids. Why? The reason that this mom before explained is she just said almost everything that I was about to say and that I said before here. Last time I was more nervous to speak all in front of you. Today I feel better. But hoping that you don't just listen to us, but hoping to get an answer as soon as possible, because time is passing by and nobody seems to really worry about what we are going through. And our kids are in a lot of danger because they're minors. They're under 18. All our kids are under 18, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. You should see how it feels to walk that hill from home to school. It's a long walk. I said that before. We all know. Our worries are, like this mom said, the spring weathers. When it's hot, because sometimes it's so hot, they're gonna get dehydrated. So by the time that they get to school, they won't be able to feel good to study, to start school. They won't even need to go to PE because that walk will be enough. And then when the time changes and it's very dark in the morning or in the afternoon, walking through, it's dangerous for them. Anything can happen there. Fights, robbery, because they're carrying important stuff in their heavy backpacks. They're hurting their bodies, and they are in the risk of robbery. And I don't know. I don't even want to think what can really happen to the kids. But you should really focus on this. This is like a problem. It's something important. Here in the United States, transportation, it's almost a tradition, and they're taking something away that is not a privilege, is a need. Please give us an answer now. We need to know as soon as possible if we are getting our buses for our kids back or not. Be sincere, please. Worry about it. Worry about these kids that are the future of America. I don't want Mr. President Trump in the future to say that Hispanic people is not good. If you provide the bus, they can go to school fresh, ready to study, to be somebody in the future. Please, do something. Some of you, I'm pretty sure, that can do something. Just do it for them, thinking in the future of America. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brenda Ramos.
Buenas tardes, miembros de la mesa directiva, a todos y cada uno de ustedes. Como ustedes saben, yo he estado aquí regularmente desde el 17 que nos mandaron el correo.
As you well seen me before, I've been here since June 17 that you send us the email.
Y creo que cada mes que haya una junta nos estaremos viendo.
And every month that there is a meeting, I'll be here.
Las caras ya me son muy familiares.
Your faces look familiar now to me.
Pero también hoy vengo a decirles que hoy viví con los niños, con los estudiantes, lo que está pasando, la realidad.
I want to tell you that today I live on my own what is happening with the students' reality.
Y yo lo siento en mi cuerpo, lo siento en mi sangre, lo siento en mi célula.
In my body,
porque ya caminé en 3 marchas ya, en una marcha de esas, que fue la última, el pasado lunes. Lo convocaron, varios canales televisivos nos estuvieron enfocando. Fue más de 1 hora 20 minutos sobre el trayecto. Hubo personas que nos dieron agua. Yo en lo personal me tuve que tomar 4 botellas de agua porque ese día estaba muy caliente. Yo no iba con mochila. Solo iba cargando un cartelón súper ligero que lo tratamos de hacer lo más ligero que pudiéramos. Y aún así llegué súper deshidratada. No quiero pensar cómo van a llegar esos estudiantes ahora que lleguen los tiempos de tanto sol.
I don't want to even think about it, how those students will reach school, especially those very hot sunny days.
Eso también me hizo pensar, y quiero que también ustedes lo analicen.
And I would like you to analyze it.
El cáncer de piel, que todos sabemos cómo estamos destruyendo nuestro planeta. Entonces, eso también es otro extra que hoy se me ocurre de decirles. Tenemos la problemática de lo del planeta.
Okay, this is something extra that I just came to my mind. We have the problem in our planet.
Ahora también quiero decirles que los padres estamos soportando a un grupo de estudiantes que nosotros mismos les dijimos no se pueden quedar callados. Si nosotros los hemos hecho por años,
we are supporting our students that we told them not to stay quiet and speak out.
Y fue increíble la respuesta de nuestros estudiantes en menos de 2 horas.
And it's been incredible the response of our students in less than 2 hours.
Tenemos más de 600 estudiantes involucrados.
More than 600 students involved.
Entonces les estamos diciendo a ustedes que no queremos que nuestros hijos falten a las escuelas.
We don't want our students to miss school.
porque nosotros queremos que sean personas preparadas como ustedes.
We want them to be persons to be prepared as well as you are,
Pero nosotros sí les estamos haciendo saber a ustedes
but we want you to know
que esto no va a parar.
this is not going to stop.
Esto apenas está empezando.
This is just the beginning.
Nosotros queremos que ya nos den una respuesta,
We want to have an answer from
pero ya, es urgente, es urgente. Esto urge y no nomás me urge a mí ni a todos estos padres que están
not
aquí.
only it's urgent to me and all these parents that they're here,
Son más de 1,300 familias que están
more
padeciendo.
than 1,300 families that they are suffering.
Esta mañana varias de nuestras compañeras que están en el grupo recibimos mensajes. Señora Brenda, tengo miedo de que mi hijo vaya a la escuela. Mi esposa y yo estamos trabajando. ¿Qué solución nos dan?
I receive many phone calls from other parents that they are scared to send their students to school. They say, what's the solution? We are scared for their safety.
Y gracias a muchas madres de las que están aquí,
And thanks to many of the mothers that are here,
muchos estudiantes no faltaron porque nosotros les dimos raite.
many of the students that are in my school today because we carpool.
Y eso está muy, muy mal porque nos estamos comprometiendo a hacer cosas que no debemos de hacer nosotros
And that
en
is,
caso de accidentes.
and that is not good because we're doing something that we're not supposed to do it, especially in case of an accident.
¿Saben a qué los están exponiendo?
Do you know what are you exposing students?
A mí me rebasó un estudiante en un carro negro.
There was a student that passed me in a black car.
Era solo ida y regreso y él me arrebasó.
It was a two-way street and he passed me.
Entonces yo les dije, graben eso, pero fue tan rápido que nadie lo pudo
We
grabar.
wanted to record it, but it happened so fast that we couldn't record.
Los estudiantes que están llevando sus propios autos están jóvenes
The students that they drive their own vehicles, they're young.
y no están viendo en los peligros que se van a poner a ellos y en los peligros a los que van a
They don't
exponer a
see
los
the
estudiantes.
dangers that they're putting themselves and others.
Esos peligros se nos van a venir directamente a nosotros los padres cuando ellos atropellen a un estudiante.
And that is going to come back to us parents.
O cuando
If they hit somebody with their
o
car.
cuando ellos mismos provoquen un accidente entre carros entre ellos.
Or when there is an accident with other vehicles
Y,
among themselves.
y como ya lo dijeron, esto estuvo súper mal, más de 1 hora de tráfico.
And
Thank
this
you.
was more than 1 hour of traffic.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
Okay, if there's no further speakers, we have the formation and approval of consent agenda. Clerk of the board, can we vote on this first?
Once I read the items
Okay,
pulled, yes.
Go ahead.
I have a correction on K2. There's a revised backup document on the dais, and in the back, the fiscal impact was listed incorrectly. It should be 39,430,511 with 81 cents. The following items have been pulled. Item F3 by staff and Mrs. Hall. Item F4 by Mrs. Hall. Item F5 by Mrs. Hall and Mr. Tarantino. Item F7 by Mrs. Hall and Mr. Tarantino. Item F11 by Mrs. Hall and Mr. Tarantino. Item G1 by Mrs. Hall. Item G2 by Mrs. Hall. Item G3 by Mrs. Hall. Item K1 by Mrs. Hall and the public. Item K3 by Mr. Tarantino. Item M1 by Mr. Tarantino and the public. Item N1 by Mr. Tarantino. Item N3 by Mrs. Hall. Item O2 by Mrs. Hall and the public. Item O4 by Mrs. Hall. Item P1 has been withdrawn by staff. And item P2 by Mrs. Hall.
Okay,
Now you could take a vote, sir.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Collier?
Yes.
Hall? Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, let's start with F3.
Board communication?
Go ahead, Ms. Hall.
So it starts with me. you're not going to change it up tonight? Okay, so first of all, I want to say thank you to the people in the public that came today to speak. And thanks to the teachers and staff that kicked off a new year for our students. I know it's going to be a good year with a lot of wonderful reports back to us on different activities and successes throughout the year, and I look forward to that. I want to mention that in the IB Times this month, or just last week, there was an article about National City Adult School and the drone program that they're offering classes in the driving a drone or operating a drone, so that hopefully it'll lead to employment under that umbrella for people looking for a job. They can sign up for those classes that kick off on August 5th, I believe, at National City Adult. There's a lot of classes offered through our adult programs that will equip citizens for citizenship or for job skills, and people need to look into that, because I think they need to have the counseling appointments set up before the school starts, so that they can assure that they have the appropriate program and goals laid out for them. So I encourage you. There's three adult school sites: the San Ysidro Adult, Montgomery Adult, well, actually 4, Chula Vista Adult, and National City Adult Schools. So there's something in every location and a lot of opportunities, so check it out. Also, I would hope that we could maybe have a more public report, or a refined report, and maybe a statement released to the public about our bus routes and about the challenges of adding bus routes or changing what's already been implemented for this year, so that people understand. It sounds like, you know, that there's still an opportunity for communication on that subject to our constituents, especially those in the San Ysidro High area. And that's all I have for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Pike. Yes, wanted to invite everyone to the Convention Center August 3rd through the 4th, to the 2019 National Latino Family Expo. There'll be entertainment, giveaways, and many services, health screenings, and the family portion of it is free. So hopefully we can see you there. There's actually a 5K at 7 o'clock, and it's a free 5K. So if you're interested in running 5K, come on down. And the conference starts 10:30 to 7 on Saturday, and 11 to 7 on Sunday. So everybody's welcome. And it's given by the Unidos US. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Segura.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pike. I would like to as well welcome back all the employees and all the students for this school year. My daughter started her junior year at Castle. My son started his senior year at Hilltop. So they're off and running today, or they're off anyways today to get their year started. I am happy to report that, as you know, I've been involved with the Solar Sprint here with the school district for this will be the 4th year. So we do have a date. September 14th is the date. It'll be at Rancho Del Rey Middle. I've been communicating with AP, Mr. Jose Luis Vargas, and he mentioned to me, I saw him the other day, that they have incorporated the solar component into their site plan. So they're actually going to have their school, which is at Montgomery Middle, they'll be building their own cars, and then the winners from their school will actually go to the race and race in the schools, in the district's race. And I got an email from Mr. Ted Baker today, and he agreed to, he's president of Baker Solar Electric, to buy all 60 cars and donate $3,000 worth of T-shirts. So he's very generous, and happy to report that that's going to still keep going. It's very important to me, and I think to the students to see their, as anybody who's been out there, to see their faces and how they work as teams together out there, problem solving with their solar cars. And I too think, and if I've missed the statement, I too would like to see a statement put out in regards to where we're at with the bus routes. I know I've been informed, but I like, whatever we can get to the public so they know what's happening and where we're at with this. And I've just changed jobs, so I've been trying to coordinate with, I forget the lady's last name, but it's Brenda. And she's been requesting a meeting, and I had one set up with her, but I had to cancel because I ended up couldn't meet. Anyways, I have been paying attention to that and have been communicating with Dr. Reyes, the principal there, and a number of people. So, I think we do need to communicate better around that and other things so that the public is informed and knows what we're doing. Or what our intentions are and how we could, we're not going to make everybody happy, that's for sure. I can guarantee you that right now, but communication should be important. What else? I think that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay. I just wanted to say, piggyback on Dr. Janning, that's fantastic for Artie Lopez. He's been with our district for a long time, and he's now getting all the accolades I think that he deserves. He's hardworking, and he's done a tremendous job with the computer program. So, touche to Artie, and I hope he continues. Mr. Tarantino.
Thank you, President Pike. I'd like to begin by thanking the Otay Ranch High School staff and administration for hosting the Back to School event, which was held on the 17th. And also to Dr. Fulcher and his department for arranging to have the keynote speaker, Liz Murray, talk to us about socio-emotional learning. It was great. It was a very emotional keynote, and I'm glad that we're jumping on board with that. I'd like to thank the association leaders who joined the board representatives and members of cabinet at the California Labor Management Institute, which was held in late June. I think that format provides an opportunity for us to get together and speak candidly about our relationships and what we can do to make them better, and where we can make some arrangements to how we're going to move forward in our negotiations and also our cooperation in looking at solutions for our budget issues. I have two requests. I would like to respectfully request that at our facility subcommittee meeting, which is going to be held the first week of August, that we put on the agenda Mrs. Wong's comments about not having any money to fund a shade structure at East Lake Middle. And the other request is via Friday update. I would like some information on expulsion panels. In terms of how are members to these panels recruited, how wide is the invitation extended to retired administrators, are there term limits? At what point do members who have served for 5 to 10 years on these panels, at what time are they rotated off, if they are rotated off, and also what kind of training they receive in terms of being able to sit on these panels. And that's all I have, President Pike.
Thank you, Mr. Tarantino. Let's move on to F4.
Pulled by Mrs. Hall.
Yes, this is on legislative updates, which we have our subcommittee working when we work on looking at legislation on board, but this one keeps coming back. It's like a repeat customer that has no changes, so I'm wondering if we could just bring this when it has actually some new information or something to act on instead of every board agenda just plugging it in there. That's all I have. Thanks.
Any further comments or questions? If not, I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
It's not action? Okay. Never mind, it's not action.
All right.
Okay. F5.
Pulled by Mrs. Hall and Mr. Tarantino.
Okay. Do you want me to go first or
ahead.
Frank? Okay, I'll start. Because some of it, I think they'll have to come back with answers because Dr. Fulcher isn't here. But I had a question on page 3 of 6. This is the item on consultants totaling 5,000 or under. And the first one was about the Consortium for Educational Change. I think that's the one. Yeah. How many people attended this function, and can they share with the board the responses on the workshop, like the comments made on evaluation forms or whatever, so we know what impact it had, and it'll be a nice report to review. So that's for page 3, Consortium for Educational Change. For page 4, the wellness together, how are staff? How are the staff of this vendor screened? Because they're doing some real key work with students and families, so I'd like to know how they're screened and what assurances we have on confidentiality of the information they receive. So I would like to have a report on that. And the last thing I have is on this mano a mano, which I think is really a great service for our parents. And in this case, I remember having this type of workshop coming forward when I was on the District Advisory Council. So it's been a few years ago. And back then my question was, what opportunities, similar opportunities in these kinds of venues, either about the power of education and things like that, because I think in any language it should be offered, because I think there's a lot of parents out there that could use that kind of help and that networking that's provided in that setting, so that they can help their students be successful. I know that I didn't know anything about helping my kid get ready for college, so I really didn't, because my experiences were so far back. It's really changed, and I didn't have an opportunity for that kind of workshop or provided information to me as a parent. I think those opportunities are key. Back then they were talking about having Dr. Villarreal do some translating on her documents and during her training, so that translators could be at the meeting and translate her, when she speaks in Spanish to parents, translate it into other languages. So I don't know if they've moved at all on that, if she's done any of her training materials, translated them into other languages, but I think it's something that everyone would benefit from, because I've only heard good things about it. So that's what I'd like to have on item F5. Thank you.
Mr. Tarantino.
Yes, President Pike. I'd like to begin by saying that the investment that we made in contracting with BWAT Entertainment to provide the sound system for our opening day, I think, was well worth it. The reception was clear. I think that people at the back of the gym were able to hear, and so I think it was a great investment, and I hope that if we do have those kinds of events in large rooms, that we continue to consider BWAT Entertainment to provide the sound system, because heretofore the sound in gyms have not been that great. In terms of mano a mano, I agree with Ms. Hall that it's a worthwhile program. But again, at what point do we begin to look at talent within our own district to provide these kinds of in-services and workshops to our parents and students and so forth? That's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tarantino. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll just add real quick before I make the motion that I concur with Mr. Tarantino, Vice President Tarantino, in terms of the sound system at that welcome back. It was really good. I mean, we sit in the front, but I know we sat in the front in past stuff, and you could hardly hear. And this one was really good. It was really good sound.
Okay.
Make the motion for approval.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve F5.
How about a second?
I'll second it then.
Thank you. Collier? Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, let's go to F7, and this time Mr. Tarantino will start.
Yes. I had a question in terms of in the analysis. It says the purpose of the grant is to encourage the development of new CTE programs with the goal of increasing the knowledge and skills necessary to transition to employment and higher education. My question was, whose responsibility is that going to be? Is that going to be emanating from the district office, or is that relegated to the school sites? And then on the actual breakdown of the budget, I noticed that there's, I'm assuming that there's a counselor component of $243,233. How is that going to be distributed? Is that per site? Is that among counselors? Is one counselor going to be given a 0.2 in order to manage it? How is that going to be dealt with?
Dr. Alvarez.
Good evening, Mr. Pike, Dr. Janney, board members, and our new student rep, Mr. Collier. The grant that we have now will be supported through the College and Career Readiness Department. When we look at developing programs, we develop them across the district in conjunction with the input and advisement from campuses based on student need. So it will be a collaborative model in order to increase and expand our programs. With the subsequent question that you had about the 200,000 plus for the, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, for the counselors, it was proposed in two ways. It was really to look at college and career readiness training through our counselors for our students, and it was posed on Thrively, which is a program that does units of study for students so that they can do career exploration. And so it would either be a 0.2 at each school site, which would be an additional 0.2, or an hourly stipend for the counselors, an hourly, not stipend, hourly payment for counselors that are working in that area. We are still deciding which of those it will be, but it will definitely be on top of, because it will be an extra duty for those counselors.
Would there be flexibility among the school sites as to how they want to divide that, or is it going to be one size fits all?
So I think those are part of the conversations and why we haven't designated it one or the other. We do want some flexibility. We are speaking with the School Counseling Guidance Association to make sure that we're working together before the final decision is made.
Thank you.
Ms. Hall.
Thank you. First of all, it's nice that we got the grant. Was this a competitive grant?
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was a competitive grant, so that's a nice chunk of change.
And that was thanks to Ms. Leano and her team.
So I noticed that there's a document on the third page of this attachment that is what Mr. Tarantino referred to, with some dollar amounts, and then it has some object codes with, you know, what is projected to be the budget. But my pet peeve is that there is no identification on who prepared this document, when it was prepared, and what is it based on, because it's just a pie in the sky dollar amounts if it's not based in some kind of factual information. So I would request that whenever you put something through to the board, it has this district, you know, it has a title on the page that shows the district, the department that prepared it, what division they're under, the date of that document, when it was prepared, not the date it's printed, but the date it's actually prepared, so that we can track down whoever it is and find out what did they base it on, where did they get those amounts, and do they have any kind of basis in reality for what they're trying to, you know, to achieve? Because was it that's a lot of money for counselors if it's just one FTE. So it doesn't sound like it's just one FTE, but we don't know because there's no FTE indicated. There's no date, so I don't know if it was based on 2018-19 salary amounts. Was it based on what we propose or what we project to be the salary amounts going forward, including those benefit rates, which change year to year? So when we see this, we see, oh, well, we got a lot of money. But then when we get it implemented, it doesn't even come close to what we really want to do with that money. And so everybody goes, what happened? And that just drives more and more disappointment, and some element of cynicism plays into it. So I think it's clear that we need to refine those documents. And also, I don't know if it was prepared with any input by finance or not, which I think is, as I've been saying for a few years now, it's key that finance they're not outside of that process of application. They should be partner in that process. So they hear what's the talk, what is being designed when people design a program, when they are going out for a grant. They're listening to that conversation because they know that translates to these things, and here's the real cost of what's going to happen. So I think all that's key, but I can't tell it from here. So I think that's key from going forward. Thank you.
Dr. Janney.
Sure. So in order for this to even get submitted, it has to go through finance. There is a conversation between the department and finance, so that's a good thing. But maybe what we need to include, if this makes sense to you, is the actual application, which answers the questions of what they require for the grant, and then how the process of how we got to those responses. And so I think maybe including the application might be a start in the right direction.
I think that's something I've always requested, that the actual document be attached to the board item. I mean, that's what I asked a long time ago. Where's the application? You know, I mean, it's not something that should be just new, because when they do that, we get an item that says we're asking the board's permission to apply for this. Then they come back and they say, okay, here's the grant, we got it, but we don't know in between. So in between, we should have already had that information, I believe, or it should be in this, like you say, attached with this document, so we know, and it's a public record, because that way staff understands and a school will understand, and the ambiguity of not knowing what's expected, because a lot of times you'll have grants that only run through like a 1-year period. And all of a sudden, at the end of the fiscal year, they're scrambling to spend those dollars. And that's a real waste, because number one, it either is just replacing what's already been spent, and that muddies the picture of whether this was an additional amount that supplements a program and a budget that we already adopted June 30th, or if it's actually just a replacement, because we're going to save those dollars and use these dollars in their place, or if we only put those unrestricted dollars as a placeholder so we could implement the program until we actually knew we got, all those things become muddied when you don't have that information at any particular point in time. And I think for the transparency and for clarity with not only our public but our staff, it is important that we have that, information out there so people can ask questions, but also use it as a tool, as a map, as a guideline when they implement a program. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
F11. Okay. This time, Ms. Hall, you can start.
All right. Thank you. This is about the appointment for the audit subcommittee, and I apologize for not being at the interviews. I was not able to make the interviews, but I'm pleased to see that we have two very qualified individuals that have stepped forward for this appointment, and I fully support both of them. Thank you, Mr. Solis, for being there and staff for bringing forward these these volunteers. And I will heavily rely on their expertise, and I look forward to hearing their questions and input in the future meetings. Thank you. And we'll see them once we vote on this. If we approve this item, I'll be seeing them on the 25th of this month. Thank you.
Mr. Tarantino.
Yeah, I just had a question in regards to Mr. Gutowski's nomination. He currently was re-upped for the CBOC, and I was wondering if his nominated nomination is accepted and passed by the board, if he will be able to serve on both committees, or will he have to consider resigning from the CBOC?
Dr. Glover, can you answer that question?
Traditionally, they serve only on one committee, so my understanding is Mr. Gutowski's here to share some information, and if indeed he's selected for this position, his next steps.
I spoke with the candidate, and he informed me that he would resign from the CBOC should he be appointed to this committee.
Can we let him speak? I mean, he is here.
Yes, we can.
Sure, I wanted to let the board know I'm more than willing to serve in this higher capacity for the district, and I want to avail my full service and abilities to it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other comments or questions? Otherwise, let's have a vote.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura? Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Move on to G1. Pulled by Ms. Hall.
I mean, I see that there's nothing here again, so I just wanted to know, do we bring back a report occasionally? I mean, that was a question we had over the last 4 years, is don't we ever hear back on any of these? And I see that we don't have anything this time. Does that mean we didn't have anything to report? Or there's no pending cases, things like that?
Dr. Alvarez.
So we bring this item quarterly, and quarterly we report to the board which items have been reported, which items are pending, and which items are resolved. So the last time we brought it forward, we had one item that was resolved regarding facilities complaint, and 0 items that remained. And so during this time period now, we have 0 items on any of our.
And that's with the state?
That's with the state.
Right?
So we actually provide this report to the the San Diego County Office of Education, and then it's reported to the state.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
G2, Ms. Hall.
I'm trying to find my questions. Just a minute. My printer doesn't work, so I can't print stuff out. Okay, so I'm really glad for these programs that bring opportunities and supplemental support to our students, especially in high-need areas, like schools with the higher levels of economically disadvantaged youth. And so I just wonder how we determine what schools are being given these opportunities.
Dr. Alvarez.
Good afternoon. So in this case, the 2 items that are being brought forward this evening include UCSD, the EAOP, and with that we're servicing Chula Vista High, Castle Park High, Southwest High, Castle Park Middle, and San Isidro High School. In another item, we're also bringing forward Cal Soap, and we're servicing Montgomery High School, San Ysidro, and Southwest. What we don't have on the agenda this item tonight, and we've brought forth at different times throughout the year because they're sort of staggered. We have Lutheran Social Services of Southern California, and that one serves San Ysidro High School, and that's the talent search component because there's two components of that, and Sweetwater High School. Then we also have the Lutheran of Southern California, Upward Bound, that services San Ysidro and Chula Vista High School. The big one that we have is called the TRIO programs, and those are through UCSD, and they offer 3 different types of outreach services, which include talent search, Upward Bound, math and science, and then Upward Bound. That one includes Chula Vista High School, Southwest High School, Mar Vista High School, and Sweetwater High School. So when we look at all our schools that are served, that serve Title I communities and students that are underserved, all of our schools are covered. They're just covered by different programs. And so I think that's something that as we look at all these services, they're trying to maximize the resources and reach out to as many communities as possible.
Thank you. One of the concerns, and it was on G3, because that's the one with Cass Park Middle, which I'm really grateful for everything that's being done for these schools. But I was wondering, is there anything we're doing for Mar Vista Academy? That's, I know it's a CIS school now, right? It's been consistently challenged, but I don't see a lot of things that happen, even after school programs that go on, all these different things that happen, and I sometimes see the name of that school along with a bunch of others that are all getting served. What are we going to do for that school? And what's the challenge? Because a lot of challenges I've heard, you know, there wasn't a teacher, the staff wasn't, there wasn't availability of a staff that wanted to, you know, be involved in that program, or they weren't ready to embrace that, you know, like some of these other schools that were part of the original application or whatever included in that. So what has changed, or what is your department and Dr. Janney, what are you doing to make sure that we expand those supports or provide those opportunities? Because I think if that culture of that school needs to be uplifted, and those kids, just like we heard in our keynote speaker at the kickoff, welcome back to school, you can't set the bar low just because it's been a challenge. I mean, we have to set the bar high for those kids too. So what are we doing to do that?
Dr. Janney.
So, Dr. Alvarez, could you just explain a little further about how the schools are chosen by each of these organizations? Because it's not like we choose them, it's really they choose them, correct? Could you share a little bit more about that? And then we can talk about Mar Vista Academy in particular.
Correct. So these organizations look at the number of underserved students, and amongst themselves, they work with identifying the schools. The reason Castle Park Middle is included in here is because they're part of the Promise Neighborhood Grant. And so that's part of the support that goes towards this. Normally the middle schools would not be included. In regards in particular to Mar Vista Academy, because of the CSI, there is some additional support that is being provided to the school through professional development for teachers and supports for students. And we can bring some information to be explicit about what types of supports are being provided.
Thank you. Because I noticed on the item that's coming up that there is an item, but it's more about staff, right? And I know the staff they need to have that window into what this data-driven decision-making, all those things that are in this item. So I understand that we're moving in that direction, but I really want to see how we're going to embrace, how the school will be building a culture so they can have all the opportunities and successes of so many of our other schools. So I look forward to hearing that from you in the future. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved for approval.
Second.
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
G3, Ms. Hall.
It was, we talked about it on that one, so I don't really need it.
No more questions or comments. I'll entertain a motion for G3.
So moved.
I'll second.
Yes, that was G2 before this one. Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, let's move on to K1, and that is pulled by the public.
Yes, I have one speaker, Kathleen Cheers.
A couple things. First thing is, I applaud seeing Palomar High School on this. Mr. Pike, you have always had that school, kept it close, dear to your heart. I think everyone in this room understands the challenges of those teachers. Quite frankly, I'd be up on charges if I had to work there, but that's just me. These students really need as much help as they can get. And while the teachers there do a great job, I think, we can all improve no matter what we do. Even I practice at home when the speeches I deliver. I'd also like to respectfully request, you'll notice at the bottom of the pages, it has resource codes. Is there a key somewhere that shows all district resource codes? And if there's not, is it possible that one could be found or put on the district website? Just as kind of like what's the word I'm looking for here?
The chart of accounts.
Whatever you want to call it, I would really appreciate that very much. Thank you
Okay.
very much, sir.
No further speakers.
Any other questions or concerns from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
It was pulled by Mrs. Hall.
Yeah,
Okay.
I pulled a lot tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't have you on that one.
Thank you. So I was wondering if we shouldn't have, we have the one confirmation purchase order board item where we're kind of separate purchase orders or travel requests that were confirmations. And I see this one item on, I believe it's the first one, was a ratify services. So maybe it should have been included on that board item for confirmation instead of approval separated out. Or else we need one for anything over $5,000. If the other one's under $5,000, we need something over $5,000. There should be a board item that's all about confirmation purchase orders. This is almost like a purchase order, but it's a consultant. And this one's small amount, $63.50, but if we have continually brought forward items to ratify instead of getting ahead of them and getting them approved prior to being implemented, those things add up over time. And I think in this situation, we need to have as much forethought on financial expenses as we can. So that's what I brought that forward. The other thing I had on page 3 of 4 is Infotech Pro Services. Have we always had a consultant doing this work? I think we have, but is that K1? For the E-rate? Yeah, okay, thank you. That answers that question. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other comments and questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve K1.
I'll second.
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, let's move to K3, Mr. Tarantino.
Donations.
I pulled the wrong one. I was
Okay.
supposed to do H3 and I put K3.
H3?
Yeah, but
you
it
want-
already passed, so that's, yeah.
Okay.
Donations.
I'll make a motion to approve K3.
Second.
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
M1.
I have one speaker, Kathleen Cheers.
would like to comment on the ratification of the Hilltop High School expense. Please do not receive this comment as a negative towards Mr. Armando. I can never roll my L's. Or questioning his ability, but rather a concern that this field project, like the Sioux High projects, never seem to end due to, in my opinion, the previous management under the previous project manager. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
I'll make a motion to.
Mr. Tarantino pulled it.
Mr. Tarantino pulled it.
Sorry.
Okay, I just had a question. I was confused because it was under the Hilltop. I had the same issue. The Hilltop High field, but yet it talks about the drop-off area. And so when I hear a drop-off area, I equate it with the front of the school. So I was just wondering, should I stop equating drop-off area to the front of the school and just make it generic that drop-off could be anywhere?
Dr. Geary.
Thank you, President Pike. In this instance, the latter is correct. So the drop-off refers to events where the field is going to be used. It needs to be ADA accessible. So that's what in this case that's referring to in particular. It's not necessarily the front of the school drop-off, but for purposes of using the ADA accessible ramp.
Okay, and then it talks about a subgrade conditions. Does that mean they have to dig something out?
So once they got into the actual work, what they found is that there's expansive soil. And in order for us to be able to identify the appropriate remedy, this is why we're bringing this consultant forward.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion for approval.
Second?
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
N1, pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
Yeah, I had a question about, it's on page 9 of the purchase order listing detail. City of Chula Vista. City of Chula Vista provides sewer service for the Sweetwater Union High School District for various sites in the amount of $206,000 and change. This is the first time I think I've noticed something like that. So my assumption was, just like in residential, your sewer is put in with your water bill. So I don't.
No, it's not.
No.
Not put in with your. It's actually for Sweetwater. They take 4 months of your water bill, and then that's what constitutes your sewer bill.
Oh, so it's not rolled. It's not rolled into the water bill. Okay, all right. Well, I don't think I've ever seen this before.
Go ahead.
Are you on?
Between water and sewage, those two separate items are bifurcated. So those two items are separated, but in this instance, the city of Chula Vista was implementing a change in their software, so it's possible that they may not have necessarily sent us a timely bill, but at this point, it's our bill. So they've implemented a different system, and we've received the invoice, and we're in need of paying it.
Okay, and I also had a question on page 14. There's a number of entries for CIT Bank for year 3 of 4 of a lease schedule. Are those for what? Are those for like copiers or what?
Dr. Salko, can you answer that question?
Those are the annual payments for the leases on the Lenovo's.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I have.
That's it. Any other questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve N1.
Second?
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, N3, pulled by Ms. Hall.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. One was, how many, this is on asset inventory, the second item listed. How many days in the last 2 years, each of the last 2 years, was inventory conducted? Does anybody know?
Dr. Selko.
Thank you, President Pike. So RCI is a new firm that we've contracted with this past year. And so they conducted their inventory they did a pilot. We tested one school in March, and then they were on site for from April to May. So about a 2-month time frame. Again, rotating cycle. They have a group of about 4 to 6 staff members. And it's my understanding in talking to staff that in prior years, the firm was CBIZ. They followed a similar approach with the inventory.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
02.
I have one speaker,
Okay.
Kathleen Cheers.
I am not understanding the how of this happening, number one. And number two, if I could possibly get a brief explanation as to what we're doing to prevent it from occurring again. This is over $750,000. That's a pretty big snafu. And I just didn't understand the reasoning of what happened. It didn't make any sense to me. Thank you.
Okay.
No further speakers. It was pulled by Mrs. Hall.
Ms. Hall.
Yeah. So my questions are, I would like staff to walk me through what occurred and how we had such a large number of meals in our claim that were denied. That's the first one. And the second part is what changes have occurred so that the district does not have inflated numbers reported again. And number 3, should we add this to one of the items regularly reviewed by our internal auditor as a sampling and reported to the board on a regular basis as part of their audit plan for the year?
Dr. Geary, can you answer these questions, please?
Yes, I can. On the first one about what happened in terms of the process, so this has to do with the implementation when there was a transition from Power School over to Infinite Campus. There was a link that was missing between Infinite Campus and PCS. PCS is the platform that's used by Nutrition Services. So what happened is the first month of the school, pretty much every student who had previous eligibility maintains eligibility. After those 30 days, there's an adjustment that's conducted by Nutrition Services based on applications that are received. That did occur in PCS, but one of the features was not linked over to Infinite Campus. Now, how did we get there? It was a process and how do we avoid having that happen again in the future? There was a small work group that came together with IT and Nutrition Services and Finance in order to kind of more fully review the circumstance that led up to this. So we've identified the circumstance that led up to this. As soon as we became aware, IT came together and they made that adjustment and made the link. Time had passed, so when we became aware, we notified CDE. We're having conversations around the method to address that. So again, that's what happened is at the time of changing from one student information system to another, that component was not activated.
So on that point, may I ask a follow-up on that point? Are these claims done through Infinite Campus? How are the claims generated? And who's responsible? Is it cafeteria staff that's responsible, or is it accounting?
Dr. Selko.
President Pike, so the claims, it's a collaborative effort with the Nutrition Services team and Finance, taking the data from that online system that is used by the team in Nutrition Services to then compile that, and there's a platform that the states claim, it's known as CNIPS, that we submit that information to process that for payment.
So is the Infinite piece identifies whether students, I don't get the connection between Infinite Campus and the software used to drive whether or not a student can be provided a meal or not.
Yeah, go for it. I'll ask Mr. Span to come up and elaborate on that.
Thank you.
And just as a reminder, this occurred in the year 2016-17.
Correct.
Right.
Good evening, Board, President Pike, Dr. Janney, and the rest of the school board. What happened is we normally had what's called a closed loop system, in that all of the transactions that happen that actually get uploaded in the CNIPS actually happens through PCS. When Power School went down, we changed the way that the systems communicated. And so there was a bridge that allowed PCS on the back end to be able to catch that. So when Infinite Campus didn't register that the students had changed, we were still claiming based on that eligibility that normally would have been switched over automatically into PCS. We didn't have that. So it was actually two systems with different information. And so our PCS system recognized not to change because no one was there to actually turn that on. And so that's how that happens. So when the information gets uploaded in the PCS, the accountant then triggers the claim payment request in the CNIPS. And so we didn't really know until we had actually had an issue that plopped up on that system for us to be able to find it.
So are you talking about a student goes from a middle school to a high school, and the change of that enrollment didn't flip over, or I'm not.
It's the eligibility. So there are codes that the USDA requires that we use so that we don't overtly identify students. So free would be a 1, reduced would be a 2.
Right. So
but
you're not really going to be calling out that student as
correct.
being a low-income student,
correct.
or a Title I student, or
correct.
whatever. But where I don't get where if you're running you're collecting money, or you're collecting a student's ticket or whatever in your PCS system, how does that play into
so when we had the bridge, the original system was basically monitored with PCS. So when the 30-day rollover would happen, if a student didn't turn in a new application, it would automatically, through the signal with PCS, that would change it. So if it went from a 1, which was free, and they didn't turn in another application, it would automatically change in the student information system to match that. When we eliminated the bridge through PCS to Power School, and then with Infinite Campus, we were still supposed to be looking at a date and looking at a number. So there was a glitch that happened where it didn't change in Infinite Campus. So PCS also didn't register it. So we were only registering the prior year eligibility. And that's something that we've had this system for longer than I've been here, and we've never had an issue with it. It was just trying to eliminate a kind of a lag in the system where a student would fill out an application, and it might take them a day or two to be able to get that information into Infinite Campus and then register that back into PCS. And so that was the glitch. We found that with the help of IT, we corrected it, and then we also tested it. And so we've been able to make sure on that 30th day we run a prior test before the rollover happens, and IT is able to identify if there's any lag in that. And also now I think we've fixed it, so we haven't had any issues with that.
Okay, so I have one more follow-up question. I guess I had other questions. I interrupted Dr. Aguirre, but I'll let him finish addressing the questions I already asked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So before Dr. Aguirre goes, one of the key points that Dr. Aguirre made was that we found this mistake and we contacted the CDE. And because we did that, that's why they're working with us, so that we can take a 5-year payment plan. And that's huge, right? So they appreciated that we brought it to their attention, and they've been working with us constantly. So I was just in communication with, I think his name was Dan Hazelleaf? David Hazelleaf, earlier in this month to sign off this final agreement. And he applauded the staff, our staff, not only nutrition services, IT, finance, for bringing it to their attention, and that's why they've been so amenable to working with us to working out a repayment plan.
Okay, so the last question I asked was about having the internal auditor review periodically. Would that be an appropriate, or is it already happening?
Dr. Sokol, can you answer that question?
They are reviewing this information. They also review that with the unduplicated student count, so it is part of their scope and in their internal audit plan that we can address.
So the board subcommittee will be getting reports from them on it and periodically. Thank you. And the last thing I would ask is because I noticed some of our schools that are actually have traditionally been higher poverty, they've been dropping. The number of students, qualified students, have dropped in recent times. A few have grown up, some have dropped. So how are we examining how that might be occurring? Why that might have you done any analysis of what's changed in those neighborhoods to where their qualified students might have dropped in ratio to their total enrollment?
If I may,
you may.
President
Go
Quick?
ahead.
So we've done a broad analysis kind of in terms of demographics and where enrollment is happening. We haven't done a targeted study or analysis around this specific question. Generally speaking, we are aware that it's becoming more and more expensive to live in the county of San Diego. So that may be one of the drivers. There's other things that are going on broadly speaking, but we haven't looked at it in a more targeted fashion.
Well, I'm kind of curious because there are like some areas where the actual school in that area is not really changing in population, and it might be decreasing in enrollment, but
Right.
the students attending that particular school may not have changed in great, because there's other options for those schools in that area now. They may be going to those other schools, but it hasn't really changed the kids remaining at the school. So I'm curious how we're looking at that and how we might become more proactive about checking addresses and where those people are. I know that there was some, I had brought this up with the superintendent before, and I think that we were looking at matching addresses, or there was some suggestion of how we could look at the addresses and where they may be households that are identified for certain services, that maybe those people aren't turning in an app and therefore their students are missing out on those meals. Just curious if we're moving in that direction and if we're working on that at all, if you have done any work in that area yet.
I'll ask Mr. Span, who's done some work in this area, to expand on that.
And while you're getting up there, Mr. Span, could you also talk about how our agreement with the county, not of San Diego, not the county office, but the county of San Diego, is that what you're going to talk about?
That and
Cool.
item that we've been working on. One of the things that the USDA has allowed and San Diego as a whole has allowed is for us to do a little bit more of that data matching using Medi-Cal. So we've just been able to add that as a contract or MOU, but the county to be able to get that additional information. We've been working closely with IT to really match siblings, go back and track prior eligibility. What's really helpful too is we're actually able to get the eligibility from the students that are transitioning into our district. So we have 4 or 5 years prior eligibility information to be able to track them. We have been allowed to use eligibility from some of our feeder districts that are Provision 2 or they have community eligibility provision so that it helps us to capture more of those students. Last year we did some extensive work with the San Diego Hunger Coalition to speak to our parents about some of the issues that have been depressing our turnout, and we noticed that when speaking with parents, it's really the political climate as well. We're the closest districts to the border, and all the rhetoric that is hitting is really scaring our parents. And from direct conversations with myself in these groups, parents are afraid to fill out the applications. We message to them that it's locked in our offices. We don't share any of the application information so that they could be more comfortable. This year we're going to initiate actual groups of parents that are going to be advocates for us to meet with parents at the school sites to talk to them about it, and I'll go along with my computer operations technician who does the application processing to really walk them through it. So we are working really hard to try to get that information out. I know there's going to be another item that's going to come up that I know you all pulled, and that's the Yum Yummy app. And the Yum Yummy app, we've met with the developer to work on expanding our messaging capabilities where we can shoot emails to the parents to talk more about the application process, where they can find the application. We have found this year that by using our messenger and then also including the link to our online application, we are right now about 4,000 applications processed. And this time last year, we're at about 2,800 applications processed. So we're seeing for the first time our online applications are actually outpacing our paper applications. So we're just wanting to continue those efforts of messaging to get that information out. We're going to be rolling out in our department our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram postings so that we can hopefully get a little bit more information to parents about our program, get them excited about what we actually do, so when the kid tells them the food's not good, they know that it is good, and then maybe they'll come on board to help with that. One thing that's happening nationally with the California California School Nutrition Association, which I'm a member of, is we have for the last 4 years have gone to Washington, D.C. to actually speak to our representatives about a program called regional indexing. And the regional indexing is where we're asking in California and other coastal cities and cities like New York, which are a little bit more higher cost, cities to ask for the regional indexing, which will allow us to actually look at the cost of living in California, and that we hope that we will be able to qualify more people that are just barely making paid status, but that we'd be able to qualify them at least for reduced. So that process is going on with directors all across the country to try to help with that. So there's some movement, and we have a couple of local congressional people who are willing to help us with that.
Thank you. I think that's commendable, and I appreciate that the current climate in our, the political climate and rhetoric is hitting the most vulnerable communities, and that is really, I think, why we need to continue to hammer back on that. So thank you for those efforts and for that explanation.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, 04 was pretty much answered by our colleague out here. Did you have any other further questions?
Well, I was kind of asking how many hits they have on that on their website, but maybe you don't have that yet. And how often do you change your menus?
You want to step up to the podium because it's all recorded. Sorry. You're used to it now, right?
I am. Well, luckily we'll be out of here before 11.
Don't jinx us.
Oh, man.
You all know. Every time I come up here, you know how it goes. I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's a quick question. It was a quick question. How often do you change your menus, and do you have any data on how many hits you have on your different website?
So,
efforts?
not yet for this year. I'd say we had about 3,000 families that actually signed on for the Yum Yummy app. We were really doing a heavy push to get that information out to more households and using the technology that students have to actually preload it. And IT has been very open to helping us with that. So we're hoping to get more information out. And we see tying in the Instagram and the Twitter and other accounts where the kids are going to be, and Snapchat and things like that, where we can get them more involved in actually downloading and using the app. And the plan is that we're going to streamline our service windows so that kids don't have to stand in line and wonder what they want. They'll know, well, this is a pizza line, or this is the spicy chicken, so we can kind of expedite the service. And so we're going to use that Yum Yummy app to actually message that out. But we like that we're adding a new component to really focus in on messaging to the parents. And so I should have some analytics on that, hopefully by end of August, when we fully launch that program. Now, we are very flexible in our menu. We change seasonally, but we also take advantage of opportunities that come our way where we can, really pick up some high-quality product. We do that, so we're actually looking at some really good local beef that, we're going to get for cheap, and we're going to bring that in and do that in a multitude of ways. And so we just kind of see how we're, what the students are really taking, and we manage the menu based on those items.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's no other questions, comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion approval of 04.
Second.
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. I think we'll conclude this.
Now you have P2,
Oh, sorry. P2.
pulled by Mrs. Hall.
Okay, so does somebody want to answer who was included in the review process of this board policy change, board bylaw change? Who initiated the change?
Dan?
So a request was sent to me from Moises's office on the recommendation
Is
of
that Dr. Aguirre, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
With a recommendation from outside counsel to add the section on design build projects. And so since that was coming forward as a revision, we went ahead and updated the list of designated officials to reflect the current positions within the district.
So on board bylaws and board policy changes, what board member was involved in reviewing prior to it being placed on the agenda?
There were no board members involved in reviewing. It went through Dr. Janney to be placed on the agenda.
Well, I mean, these are board policies and board bylaws, so I think that a board representative, or we should have, maybe that's the reason why we had a board bylaw committee or board policy review committee, because we probably need to have board involved in it before it comes to the board, so that at least we know somebody had a review on it as a designee of the board. So that maybe at this time would be the board president and the board vice president. These are changes to our bylaws, so I think we should have some heads up and have a board person review them before they come to the board. That's just my suggestion. I'm not saying hold this one back, because I think that there were good reasons for it, but I think that's a practice that I would request we have in the future. And that's all.
Okay.
Now, a motion to approve P2.
Second.
Collier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Now we'll end the meeting. Ms. Chairs, you can go home.